you've been influenced, of course, by many people. You've had a lot of teachers, and you had mentioned we had a conversation before about a personality that you felt that more people perhaps could continue to benefit more from if they look deeper into that person's work. And I think you had mentioned you wanted to talk a little bit about Rashid Rida, right? And because you felt that there are some important insights to be taken from his life and from his teachings, right? Would you like to
Yeah, inshallah,
elaborate a
I
little
can
bit
share
more
a
on
little
that?
bit. Actually, completely coincidentally, but I'm just reading his book right now on the Khilafah. It's like
All right.
Khilafah al-Imamat al-Udma by Rashid Rida. I had to do some research. I was doing this right now, so it's on my table right now.
That's
And subhanAllah, he saw the collapse of the Khilafah, right?
mm-hmm.
And so this is like a collection of the series of articles he wrote in Al-Manar. When he began writing, the Khilafah was on the decline. It was still there. By the time he finishes, he's like 15 articles, I think. By the time he finishes, the Khilafah is gone. And so it's really interesting to see his own ideas, and he's a live witness, to what's happening in the world around him. So obviously, as you know, I do not believe there is any one person whom we are obliged to follow other than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every single person after him is attempting, and we can respect and disagree, and there's no contradiction between respect and disagreeing. So there are many people that I admire, no doubt, because of my training, and I still admire him immensely. Ibn Taymiyyah, without a doubt, I have a deep love for Ibn Taymiyyah. One of the reasons is because you sense from him a genuine commitment to the truth and a genuine sense of bravery about speaking what he believes is the truth, right? He clearly does not care about ego, does not care about fame, does not care about political correctness, right? And those are qualities I admire, that he wants to speak the truth. It doesn't mean I agree with everything that he taught. Rashid Rida is, I think, another person that I would say on that list of top 3-4 people that I really admire and respect is Rashid Rida as well. And of course, very different admiration. Because here's another point, Sheikh Abdullah, and I want to say this a little bit bluntly. One of the problems that new students of knowledge have is that they judge ilm only by the mastery of the tradition.
Yeah, right.
Only by being able to regurgitate, the mashhur of the Hanabila, the rajih of the Malikis, and the qadim of the Shafi, and the jadid, and that for them is ilm in its totality, right? And I understand this because we've been in that world, both of us. I was in it for 10 years. And if we were to continue, we know where that is heading. But you see, that's one type of ilm, and it is needed. I'm not at all, astaghfirullah, dismissing it. But there's other types as well. And there's types that require learning and researching beyond just the classical books of the Turath, right? Understanding current affairs and reality, understanding the world as we live in it, right? Understanding the psychology and mentality of the people around you. And so, me personally, and this is one of the reasons my critics, do criticize what I'm doing, I have decided to not go deeper into the tradition anymore, because I have enough, alhamdulillah, for living my life. And if I need to do something specific, I can do that. These days, almost entirely, I'm reading about history. I'm reading about, the political realities. I'm reading about psychology. Because to me, psychology is, again, so if you understand psychology, you understand how to talk to people. And this is a different type of ilm. And with utmost humility and respect, if you listen to my lectures, you'll see the effects of that. Listen to Yasir Qadhi 30 years ago. There's YouTube clips of me. And listen to him now. You will see the market difference. One of the primary reasons is because I am constantly reading outside of just the classical tradition, right? Now, why do I say all this? Because in my humble opinion, Rashid Rida, there is no comparison with him versus Ibn Taymiyyah. There's not, but Rashid Rida does something that I find very, very attractive personally, and that is to bring in the understanding that we need to, along with the Turath, deal with modernity, right?
Yes.
We need to understand what is going on. In his time frame, hardly anybody spoke about istimar, about colonization. Hardly anybody deconstructed it the way that he did, right? That's what his school is known for, starting with even people before him that I don't necessarily agree with. Abdu and, of course, Afghani. There's a lot to disagree with them, but you can disagree and take the good. And one of the things Afghani did, which you have to give him credit for, when Afghani started preaching out against colonization and traveling the Muslim land, saying, guys, wake up, look what's happening.
Yeah.
nobody had taken that call global the way that he did, right?
Right.
And no matter how much you disagree, and there's much to disagree with, you have to give him credit for that. And
Right.
that call kind of sort of resonated first with Abdu and then, of course, with Rashid Rida. And Rashid Rida then understands that, hey, look, we need to Islamicize the movements against colonization, right? It's not just a national, because as you're aware, Sheikh, and many of our viewers might not be aware, most of the movements that were anti-colonization were purely nationalistic, right? The
Yeah. Right.
Turks and the Egyptians and the whatnot. And people like Abdu and Rida in particular, they realize, no, no, we are one ummah. We need
Yeah.
to come together and we
Mhm.
need to understand. And then also, why is the West superior to us, right? Why are they technologically advanced? Because once again, you're aware of this, that there was a massive inferiority complex. And
Yeah.
at the time, if you were religious, you were backward. And if
Mhm.
you wanted to become enlightened, you'd have to become completely Western. Give up your religiosity, right? Act and
Mhm.
talk and speak and be completely, British or French.
Mhm.
People like Rashid Rida, right, were the people who carved out that middle.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are like, no, no, no. We can be proud to be Muslim. We can be religious and faithful, and we can take the best of what the West has to offer as well, right?
Mhm.
Now, Rashid Rida in particular has had a lot of flack, as you're aware, and some of those tensions still lie on to this day. He's
Right.
been accused of being a Freemason and a
Mhm.
progressive and a modernist and whatnot. All I can say is go read his books directly,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Go read them directly, as I'm doing and others are doing. And
Mhm.
I don't have to agree with everything, but I do find, in my humble opinion, and I hope this doesn't come off as arrogant, I find like a kindred spirit. I find, I don't agree because we have hindsight. Remember, he's writing 1925. He's
Yeah.
writing 100 years ago. Cut him
Mhm.
some slack and
Yeah.
compare him, not with you or
Mhm.
me, compare him with his peers.
Good point. Yeah.
Compare him with the people around his time frame.
Mhm.
Nobody is dialoguing the way he is, right?
Mhm.
And that's why Rashid Rida really was the first truly multinational global mufti of modernity. Everybody knows this, right?
Yeah.
Because he's the one who's talking in this manner. And he's the one who's his Majalat al-Manar is being read in Indonesia as it is being read in Russia and Kazakhstan. It's being read
Mhm.
in Arabia, and it inspires a whole myriad of movements. Ikhwan
Mhm.
al-Muslimin is coming
Yeah.
from his thought.
Right.
Al-Albani is coming from his thought, right?
Mhm.
Al-Albani himself says, what inspired me was reading Rashid Rida. Isn't
Mhm.
it amazing to
Yeah.
see Al-Albani and the Brotherhood and so many other organizations all coming from one person? What does
Yeah.
that show you? It
Mhm.
shows you that this is a man who wants you to think. He
Mhm.
wants you to, and this is what I appreciate. Not that not necessarily agree with everything, but
Mhm.
he's not just somebody who's saying, "Hey, the way to solve our problems is to quote Ghazali and that's it. To quote
Yeah.
Ibn Taymiyyah and that's it." That's
Mhm.
not my philosophy. We
Yeah.
need to follow the spirit of Ghazali and Ibn Taymiyyah, right? Which
Yeah.
means to do what they did for our time frame. I say this to the Salafis. I say this to the Sufis. Don't just quote me Ibn Taymiyyah. Don't just quote me Ghazali. Do what they did for our time frame. And in
Right.
my humble opinion,
Mhm.
somebody like Rashid Rida is somebody that attempted to do that. Even if I disagree with some of the end results, but
Mhm.
it's that spirit, the point of trying to constantly look at our religion in light of modernity, to be respectful of the tradition, but
Mhm.
understand the tradition is not divine. And this is
Mhm.
what his clash was, as you're aware, right?
Yes.
That
Right.
the traditionalist ulama were like, what do you mean we don't have to follow any one madhab? What do you mean? And he's like, well, we have bigger issues to deal with. We have to come together, etc., etc. Again, it's
Mhm.
the spirit
Yes.
of that
Mhm.
sentiment that I appreciate, not necessarily the minutiae and the exact details of what he said.